Cherie Hanson here. We've had smoky skies for the last 3 or 4 days, and I have given myself a note, an excuse, a note from the body. No, we don't want to go outside and walk around in the air. I have finished reading, thinking about, taking notes on the 6 pillars of self-esteem. And it's been really informative to me about how the analysis of self-esteem is presented in this book. And I talked last time about the loss of congruence. In other words, if your environment as a child is such that the response you get to your behavior is not congruent with your behavior, if it's unpredictable, the result is that the individual feels invisible. And this isn't something we talk about a great deal, although I have had many of the people I'm coaching talk about this feeling of being ghost-like, translucent, unreal, dissociated. They, are not in a place where they believe in themselves. It's like just fly out your window. No, I can't do that. So they don't see themselves as powerful. The greater a child's terror and the earlier it is experienced, the harder the task of building a strong and healthy sense of self. So this is a good marker. For some people, they had a traumatic experience. They had fear approach them when they were teenagers. But for someone who is born into it, it makes it much more difficult to find the self. The self is lost to one. And very good exercise that was suggested is to ask the question, how were you imprinted? So in other words, when my mother saw me make a mistake, what would she do? When my father saw me make a mistake, what would he do? When I now catch myself making a mistake, what do I say to myself? Because we internalize the early voices. We internalize the assessment, the performance, HR's performance report. And we've got it in here. You're just stupid. You can't do anything right. It's like, why are you so anxious? Well, that's why. The thought that came up in the reading I did the last 2 days is that overprotecting a child is child abuse. And let's talk about that a little bit. If your attitude toward your child is a lack of trust, you don't believe they're strong, you don't believe they're capable, you don't believe that they can survive without you breathing for them, they will be very fragile and have very low self-esteem. And I see that happening a lot these days. The world is very frightening. It's chaotic. You can't count on normal. What do you trust? And the response is that the child is then encapsulated in this mummy, this mummified wrap of the self-concept of fragility. And I noticed such a shift in the last 20 years. We don't want playgrounds where someone can actually take a risk. Or if they get hurt, they might get hurt The monkey bars that I climbed on when I was a kid were, were over a cement slab. It's like it wasn't some packing material or anything of that sort. If you fell, you're really going to get hurt. But the overprotectiveness in itself creates a lack of self-confidence. What we're saying to the child is, I don't trust you. I don't trust you to take care of yourself. You can't get out of my sight. You can't take any kind of risk. I have to have you right here under my armpit, or else you're in danger. And that ends up with kids who don't have the ability to feel good about themselves, even if they make a mistake or make a failure. They're kind of see themselves like a hand grenade with the pin pulled. I don't dare make a mistake, I'll blow up. So they become overly anxious and self-protective. The thing that's really difficult in the world today is we're starting to understand what has gone on for hundreds of years. When we get statistics, we see that 24% of American children have never known a father. It isn't that the father was there and they were born in a family with a father and then something happened to a father. No, they don't even know a father. So this makes a situation where boys particularly don't know how to become men, and girls specifically don't know how to choose a husband. So they're left with this gaping ignorance, the perspective of what a family should feel like, if it's normal and if it's loving and supportive. 25% of all people are physically or sexually abused before the end of high school. And I think that is higher now. This book was written in 94. What we've come to believe is that I'm the only one. I'm the only one that feels like this. I'm the only one that had this happen to me. Everyone else is fine. Well, that doesn't make a systemic solution. That doesn't make a let's recreate the reality push. No, it's horrendous how many people have endured a lack of care from parents with high self-esteem. It's really interesting to me that in 1989, the Association of California Schools declared they did not have education as their central purpose. Do you know what their central purpose was? Compliance, obedience, lack of self-expression. Now, that does not lead to children who have a great deal of confidence. Because if I feel like this is a bad situation, I can't push back on it. I just have to endure it. Low self-esteem teachers are unhappy teachers. They're less likely to be able to teach problem-solving skills because they don't have them. They don't have enough self-esteem to solve problems, so they can't teach anyone. One of the greatest gifts a teacher can offer to a student is the refusal to accept the student's poor self-concept at face value. And I have experienced this in my 30 years of teaching high school, and also in my decades of life coaching, people don't understand who they are. They see themselves as so flawed. They don't see their gifts. They don't see their resources. They don't see their intelligence. They don't see their problem-solving skills. And it's like having, a beautiful hummingbird in front of you, and the hummingbird is saying, "Oh, I'm a skunk. I'm just horrible." You looked at yourself, and that's one of the things that's very jarring about dealing with people who have low self-esteem, is their failure to know what their gifts are and what their power is. The important things in the classroom for a teacher are to really focus on the child's dignity. Never take a child's dignity away from them, because they're going to walk out of that room without self-esteem. They will think they're flawed, that they're, deformed, that they're not right. Also, maintaining justice in the classroom. I think we've given up on that personally. The last part of my teaching career was going like, no, you can't change this. Just go to the staff room and talk about the football game. Teaching children to appreciate themselves means you need to give them room to evaluate their own performance based on their own measurements. An over-attachment to the known and familiar reality has become costly and dangerous in cultures. It threatens an individual with obsolescence. We operate in the context of constantly accelerating challenges. And if the person does not have self-esteem and self-reliance, they're never going to make their way out of the paper bag. They're just going to be walking toward the end of the bag and not where the opening is. The greater the number of choices and decisions we need to make, the more we need self-esteem. Because what's going to be the criteria for making that decision if you don't know who you are? It's like someone saying, I want to swim across the lake, but I don't like to get in water. You have to know yourself before you can get to a place to make decisions and choices for yourself. But you get into a state which is called exhaustion when you're having to make too many decisions. For me, if there are more than 3 types of cheese, I just give up. I can't choose from 10 types of cheese. I'm sorry, you're asking too much of me. The mind is a very strong element of economic activity today. In the past, a worker was considered to be part of the machine. They were taught their movements, their range of ability, and you just hook them onto a machine and they continued to do it. Today, it's not like that. If you get an app on your phone, it probably won't work in 2 weeks. The links will be broken. There'll be 15 more apps. So we say to ourselves, how do I make myself effective? How do I make myself successful using this new interface with reality? And the difficulty is the definition of successful. Okay? Stop right there. This is my insight. If I can use the app, I am successful. If I fail to use the app, I am a failure. Well, what if your ability to fail without giving up is your success? You can try, you can do this new thing, you can adapt, you can shift, you can allow a new insight to come in everything that you do. So attaching to the known and the familiar is costly and dangerous, and it will drive you insane. This is not normal, we say, when something changes in front of us. This is not something I know about, we say. The problem is we're being asked to grow. We're being asked to change. We're being asked to pivot. We're being asked to let go of the past and step into now with the understanding we don't know what the future is. It's a skill. It really is. It's sci-fi. The activities of the individual mind, thinking, self-trust, tenacity, and perseverance will allow you to adapt to changing economies. So self-esteem makes you relevant. I saw a show about the body being reused. So you failed at something, and then they would melt you down and put your memory back in the new body. And that's kind of where we are right now. Like, I learned how to use this app. I learned how to drive this car, and now it's all disappeared. What do I do? Well, just tell them to make another computer printout of you and keep going. The job of an entrepreneur is to destroy. Let me explain that. I think that's brilliant. An entrepreneur does not just slide into the slots, roll down the marble tube to go to the same place. An entrepreneur is constantly in a state of destroying and recreating reality. Now, you can't do that if you have low self-esteem. The job of living your own life relies on alleviating your suffering. So if you're attached to the normal and the usual and the habitual, and if you're stuck in a feedback loop that has to work a certain way, then you're not going to adapt. You're going to be thrown into a whirlwind of chaos, a tornado, an explosion, and you're just up in the air going, what happened? Always know when your goal is personal validation. This is a big one. This is huge. If I do this so somebody will kiss me, if I do this so I get a badge, if I do this so somebody tells me I'm right, if I do this for applause, I do not believe in myself. I have given up my personality. I have given up my ethics, my passion, my calling, in order to settle for a lesser reward. He had a very interesting part toward the end. What are your unrecognized or hidden parts? What are your sub-selves? Hey, very, very Jungian. We are composed of many selves, many. So What's your attitude toward your child's self? What he found, okay, damn it. I'm just going to put that up. It should have been plugged in. Damn it. Okay. Let's go over there and we will get, use your battery. So